Now, I jumped into this example and immediately concentrated on blue. I think we need to just explain a little bit more in detail the complexity that can arise. We don't need to change anything on the board, but as we said in the beginning, there was actually not only a blue conflict, but there was also a black conflict.
Exactly.
And the rule says, once such a unification has happened and these external conflicts create several rivalries between leaders, then they have all got to be resolved. But the player who caused the unification decides on the order in which it is resolved. And that means, in this case, he would have decided that blue goes first. That, of course, is very strategic, because had the player decided that black goes first, the outcome could have been totally different. Because then the black player would have had to play to count his black pieces in the lower kingdom, and the black player in the upper kingdom would have counted his pieces, and then you would have put more pieces out, more black pieces out from your hands, and then would have seen who is victorious. And then, of course, the scoring would have happened in black. Now, we assumed that the pieces and the unification was played by the blue lion,
exactly,
by the lion player. And that, of course, was absolutely clear that he wanted to have the blue conflict first. He was not interested in getting the black conflict going, in which he is not involved, and therefore he has no opportunity to score any points. And then still with the risk that if the lower black player loses, that then the link would also be destroyed, because there is a black tile there which actually makes up the link. So it is vitally important, once you create the conflict, that you take the absolutely right strategic choice in which order to resolve these conflicts.
I see. A very important decision then.
And of course, the conflict is a absolutely devastating situation that occurs. An internal power struggle that leader A replaces leader B is not really a big deal for the kingdom as such. An external conflict really destroys kingdoms, as we have seen here. The upper kingdom is now as strong as before, but the lower kingdom has actually suffered because it fell apart, and all the agronomy, all the farming went out of the kingdom and is actually now two parts which are significantly weaker.
Okay, I was just setting the board back the way it is now.
Okay.
And it seems to me that this is still very easy to explain to a new player, because if the battle and the conflicts are in black, you use black tiles.
Yes.
In the example we used, it's fought with blue tiles because my advantage was that I had 3, and I wanted to move into that area. I assumed that my opponent did not have that many tiles.
Exactly.
That's the way you can score a lot of points. If blue is the color that you're working on, that's the way to score 5 points and actually pull the game out with a good external conflict.
Absolutely. I mean, external conflicts are difficult to create. You need to have a long-term strategy to grow 2 of the kingdoms together and to make sure that you are then having the upper hand, so that you have a strong leader in there and that you can take over the kingdom and that you make the points out of this.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that this doesn't happen just by luck. You have to really plan this during the game. If you think this is just going to happen some point in the game, it's going to light up. It doesn't really work that way. You can see that it was even pretty much for the blue kingdom or the blue tiles, and that just didn't happen. That's the way the game was played on purpose.
That is absolutely true. I mean, the starting point always is the scoring system. The scoring system says your lowest color, your weakest area will be your score. So the first thing you need to do is you analyze where is your weakness. And then you go to the board and say, so what do I do about my weak spot? And if your weak spot is in blue, it does not matter if there is a good opportunity to score red. If you have enough red, you don't want to do that. You don't want to waste your turns. You don't need any more red tokens. You want to look at blue, and that means you need to detect, is there a blue monument which I can take over? Is there a war, an external conflict which I can lead and win so that I get good blue tokens? Of course, that all can happen in a way to your disadvantage, because if you don't prepare the external conflict thoroughly, as it happened to the blue lion actually, he wanted to make some points, he linked it up, and essentially he suffered. Not only has he not scored points, but he was also kicked out of his kingdom, so he's now off the board, and means your blue leader is off the board, and therefore cannot score any blue points, and you are in a much worse position and need to start again from the beginning and see where can I actually go somewhere and where can I make some points. So it is a completely different struggle every game. It's not where can I get the most points, it is what do I need in my specific situation, and every game is different, and every game essentially confronts you with new challenges to get out of your problem area.
Well, maybe now we can take a look at, and I hope that we've covered that well. I'd like to take a quick look at the treasures and how that is accomplished and how those are part of the advanced scoring.
Absolutely. That is an ideal link here, because treasures are also a global aspect of the game.
Right.
Treasures are these neutral wooden cubes which are laid out at the beginning of the game in 10 different spots and are nicely spread over the board. And we know that we pick up one of these treasures as soon as there are more than one treasure in one kingdom. Of course, that also happens when kingdoms grow and when kingdoms are unified and stay unified after the external conflict. Then it's always the merchant, the leader, who has the merchant in there, the green one, will then pick up all the superfluous natural cubes, which are joker scores, from that kingdom. Again, that is a global strategy because it doesn't matter where your problem area is. The natural colored cubes can be used for any color, and therefore they are always good for you. And therefore, when you can pick them up with your green leader, then you would always want to do it, and therefore you would always try to expand, because expansion was a way to gain power, to expand your kingdom by unifying or by growing through tiles, so that you can link in more and more of these treasures and pick them up. It's a very global strategy because everybody has the same objective, and therefore other players will come in and either try to be faster than you or to take over your role as the green leader, and therefore will be in the position to pick it up.
Is that something that happens quite often with early players or beginning players, that there's almost a mad scramble for treasure? I'd
say that is certainly an advanced strategy which people and players will learn and develop as they play more games. My experience is that players, as you say, find a relatively easy access to the game, but the whole depth of the game, particularly with respect to the global strategies, preparing the external conflict and making sure that you pick up the treasures, is something which takes, to really strategically prepare it, takes a lot of experience, and is something which really evolves magnificently between experienced players.
We've managed to get through the hardest part, which is the technical setup of conflicts and scoring and rules and overview and whatnot. Now we can have some fun and talk about how you develop this game.